paramedic, you sign up for the unexpected, but some calls etch themselves into your memory, refusing to fade away. One such call happened on a stretch of road so isolated, it felt like another world. It was 2 a.m., the hour when reality seems to blur into the shadows. We were dispatched to a report that seemed straight out of a horror script. An abandoned car, soaked in blood, in the middle of nowhere. Arriving on the scene, the sight that greeted us was straight from a nightmare. A brand new Mustang sat in the desolate silence, its sleek form a stark contrast to the darkness surrounding it. My partner and I, part of the tactical medical unit for the local sheriff's department, were no strangers to bizarre situations. However, nothing could have prepared us for what we were about to discover. As we cautiously approached the vehicle, the beam of our flashlight cut through the night, revealing a scene so grotesque it seemed unreal. My partner muttered under his breath, urgency lacing his words, urging us to retreat. The car's interior was a chaos of flesh and blood, with intestines grotesquely draped over the steering wheel and a solitary lung sitting in the passenger seat, as if left behind in haste. We were in shock, our training the only thing keeping us from succumbing to panic. Informing dispatch of the situation, we prepared to withdraw until law enforcement could secure the scene. But fate had more in store for us that night. Out of the darkness, a figure drenched in blood began walking towards us. Instinct took over. We armed ourselves, prepared for the worst. This bloodied man, disoriented and in shock, turned out to be the driver. He recounted his tale of buying the Mustang to experience the thrill of speed on this secluded road. One moment he was alive with exhilaration. The next, he was enveloped in darkness and the taste of blood. Hearing about the lung in his car, he was dumbfounded, unable to process the reality of his situation. With the police minutes away, I knew we possibly had another victim out there. Armed only with my flashlight, I ventured into the night, following the trail of the accident. The car was a gruesome testament to the violence of the impact, with more organs scattered inside, painting a picture of horror. Following a faint trail of blood on the asphalt, I braced myself for what I might find. The reality, however, was as unexpected as it was macabre. It wasn't a human victim. The driver had collided with a deer at high speed. The impact was so forceful that the deer's organs were propelled into the car, covering the driver in viscera. We had the driver decontaminated and sent to the hospital, his story becoming a cautionary tale of the unpredictability of life. This call, a blend of horror and relief, remains one of the most unforgettable experiences of my career. A stark reminder of the fragility of our existence and the strange, sometimes horrifying, events that can abruptly intersect our lives.
It was just past midnight, the kind of silent night where every little noise seems louder than it should. I'm Officer Daniels, been wearing the badge for years, seen just about everything, or so I thought. Nothing had ever prepared me for what happened at 47 Harper's Lane. That place, people said it was haunted. Always figured those stories were just tall tales. Driving down there, the fog was something else, thick and unyielding, swallowing up the light from my cruiser like it was nothing. Harper's Lane itself was deserted, the kind of quiet that gets under your skin. And there it was at the end, the Harper house, standing there like it was waiting for me. Called it in, trying to keep my voice steady, but there was something about that night air. Felt like it was charged with electricity. I got to the door and it was barely hanging on its hinges, the nameplate tarnished but just legible in the dim light from my flashlight. Didn't even get to knock before the door creaked open on its own. I felt maybe some teens were inside just trying to have some fun or vandalize. Stepping inside,
Police.
I announced myself, but nothing answered back. The place was filled with old portraits. Their eyes seemed to follow me as I moved, like the ones at the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, adding to the eerie feeling. Yet I didn't feel alone. I knew someone was in here. The atmosphere inside was stifling. Every sound amplified, a floorboard creaking, the distant sound of something scuttling in the shadows. Made my way to the reported disturbance in the living room. That's when I saw a figure, just a silhouette of a man. He was wearing clothes from the 1800s, I felt, a long coat, but appeared see-through, almost mist-like. The room dropped several degrees in temperature, sent a shiver down my spine I couldn't shake off. I called out, "Sir?" but got no response. Then I flashed my light towards his head, and that's when he turned around with this sinister grin, almost drooling because his mouth was smiling so wide. And then as I called for backup on my walkie, a sound of glass breaking came from the upstairs. I turned my head, now worried there was another person in the home. I rushed back to yell at the man, "Who else is in the house?" But he was gone. A mist of smoke is all I got a glimpse of for May, 0.5 seconds. I pressed on. The house seemed to warp around me. Then a child's laughter echoed through the halls, clear and close. But when I turned, there was nothing. My breath turned to mist in front of me, the cold biting through my jacket, almost like a scene from The Sixth Sense. You know where the boy can see his breath when a person was nearby? Ventured deeper and found a library, dust-covered books lining the walls. There, in the center of the room, was an old diary, pages open. The words, "Dad was mad. I am in the backyard by the aspen," scrawled across in desperate handwriting. The laughter echoed again. This time it seemed to come from an older man, not a child. It came from the room where I had seen the man. I'd had enough, turned to leave, but the house seemed reluctant to let me go. I became lightheaded and felt I was close to fainting. I pushed through, heart racing, until I finally burst out the front door back into the night. The fog felt warm compared to the chill I'd felt inside. Before leaving, calming myself down knowing backup was coming, I went and flashed my light in the backyard, looking for an aspen. Sure enough, there was an old aspen tree set to the side. I called to have K9 cadaver dogs come as I felt something was there. I needed to know. 50 mins or so, a hound had shown up ready to search. I didn't want to tell the trainer where I felt something was, as I didn't want to be known as crazy in the department, so I sat back and let the dog search. After about 8 minutes, he finally got near the aspen. I sat hoping there was something so I didn't become ridiculed for dragging a K9 unit out for no reason. I waited. The dog sniffed. He wrapped around the tree, and I kid you not, the dog about 9 feet away from the tree sat in place. This indicated remains. They called for a crime scene unit, and I jumped into my cruiser, engine roaring to life, and I didn't stop until I saw the familiar lights of the station. Back at my desk, I tried to make sense of the report, how to explain the unexplainable. Ended up leaving out half of what I'd experienced. No one would believe it anyway. Took some leave after that night, said it was stress, but truth is, I needed time to process what happened. Harper's Lane changed something in me, made me question what's real and what's not. I used to think seeing was believing, but now I'm not so sure. There are things out there, in the shadows, just beyond our understanding, and some doors, once opened, can never be closed again.